Hi, my name is David Yorkback, and I'm a student at North Carolina Central University in the Department of Environmental, Earth, and Geospatial Sciences. And today, I'm going to do a tutorial on using ModelBuilder and geoprocessing tools, which are a great way to efficiently replicate processes. Okay, so let's get into it. And I'm going to, let's see, pull up an ArcGIS Pro project here. And give me one second. I want to make sure that I am sharing the correct screen here. And okay, great. That looks like I've got the project up. All right. So you can see in this project, I just have a few data sets. I've got public school locations current, and they're for the entire US, as you can see. And then I've got North Carolina boundary county polygon here, just to see North Carolina's 100 counties here. And then this is NC social determinants, and that is census tract data, which is really helpful and useful data. And so what I want to get into is a thing called ModelBuilder. So let me show you how we can get there. So up here, we're in our map tab currently. Let's go up to our analysis tab. And then right over here is where we have ModelBuilder up in the top left. I'm just going to single click on that. It opens up this new window, and it's just a blank window. Don't worry, your map hasn't disappeared. It's in that tab right there. Here's your ModelBuilder tool. Now, what we want to do is get into some of our geoprocessing tools and put them into ModelBuilder. So there's a couple of ways we can get over there. Let's just go back to our analysis tab, click on our toolbox here, and then over on the right, we've got our geoprocessing tools. So I'm going to search for the first tool we're going to use, and we're going to use the clip tool. This is a nice, simple tool. It tells you what it does right here. Extracts input features that overlay the clip features. What we can do is just click on this and drag it into the ModelBuilder over here. And you can see what it looks like here. It's just these grayed out boxes when we start, right? Well, let's right click on the clip tool and open it up. So now we get the parameters. So we got to set our input features or data set. And what we're looking at here is the public school locations current. Now, what do we want to clip those to? Let's scroll down to the bottom here. Wait, let's try that again. We're going to clip them to this NC County boundary polygon. So then the last thing is our output features here. We want to name this so we know what it is we're looking at. So I'm going to put public school locations, and I'll just put underscore NC. So we know we're looking at schools in North Carolina only. That's what we're doing here. Now I'm going to click, actually before I click OK, let's look at our environments real quick as well. So what we want to do is just look at their output coordinate. Let's just use the current map. And then right here for our XY extent, we can click on this little map icon. That'll auto-populate our coordinates. So that's a helpful thing to do. Okay, so now that we've done that and I hit OK, look what happened. We've got, let's just click on one of these. We've got a couple of inputs. That's what these blue ovals are, right? Now, if I open up the tool, I can show you again quickly, what did we do? Well, public school locations, that's one input here. And then the boundary county polygon, that's our other input. Then what do we do? We're going to run this clip tool, and then we got our output right here, public school locations NC. So let's close out of that, and then we can just make these ovals a little bit bigger so we can see the names of everything, right? And then it's just an easy way to remember these blue ovals are your inputs. The yellow rectangles, that's your process. That's your geoprocessing tool that you're running. And then the green oval is your output. So let's go back up here into the ModelBuilder up on our top ribbon, click that. And then we can click the validate. That'll just let you know if there's any errors in your process. It looks like we're good. So let's run it. Now you're going to see this yellow rectangle turn red when I click the run button. See if it moves over here. While it's red, that's when you know it's running. So it's executing that clip feature here. Okay, and we're done. So let's just close out of that. Now nothing happened in our contents pane. So let's right click on our output and let's hit add to display. Boom, here it is in our display right here. So now if we go back over to our map, now look, all these blue dots for the entire country. In North Carolina, we've got these nice purple dots, and we can just turn off the rest of the country. We could actually delete that data set, but I'm going to leave it for now. And this is all we're going to work with. Okay, so let's get back into our ModelBuilder and let's add another tool. And the next one we're going to use is, I think, a really cool tool called Identity. Okay, if you hover on it here, it tells you what identity does. Computes a geometric intersection of the input features and identity features. The input features that overlap the identity features will get the attributes of those identity features. That's what we're after here. We want to get the attributes from the census data into the public school data. So, all right, let's drag that identity tool right here into the model builder. And now what we're going to do is just draw a line from this green oval to this identity tool. We're going to click those. That's what we're using for our input features. And that is got us started, right? So now we click open for the identity tool, and we've got our parameters. We already have our input because we drew that line, public school locations, North Carolina. Now, what do we want our identity features to be? We go into this dropdown. What we're looking at is the census tracts right here. And then there's a default here, all attributes to join. I'm just going to, there's a drop down for only ID features. We're just going to leave that as all attributes. But then we want to name this because what are we looking at? And what we're really looking at here, we're adding information about demographics. So I'm going to call this locations underscore demographics. Okay. And we can hit OK. Now look what happened here. This little blue oval popped up. Why did that pop up? Again, because in the identity tool, let's open it up, our parameters, we chose these public school features for North Carolina as our input, and then we clicked these identity features as census tracts. So that's what popped up right here in this blue oval. These two things are both getting run through the identity tool, and then our output, well, that's what we named right here. So let's see, we can do this. We can just expand this green oval so it's a little bigger. Now we can read it better and make it just a little prettier. Okay, and then click on the identity tool, and let's go up here and run it. And again, you're going to see it turn red as it runs. Okay, just taking a minute because it's working with a large data set here. And there we go, it's done. And now we can right click on this, add it to our display. Okay, now did that show up there? Yes, it did right here. So let's go to the map. Now the map looks the same, but let me show you what's different. First of all, when we had all these public schools, I'm going to open up that attribute table for the entire country. We were dealing with a very large data set. We opened up this attribute table, there were over 102,000 records there. So after we did that first clip tool, we got just the North Carolina public schools, right? So that's 2,766 records, 2,766 what I'm trying to say. And that's a lot more smaller data set, a little bit more manageable for work with for us to work with. But on the public school data set, it's just some basic info, right? You got your school ID, the district, the name, the city it's in, zip code, lat long, and not a whole lot else. That's the information. But now the map doesn't look too different here, but if we turn this off, it's the same exact number of schools. But now let's open up this attribute table. Look at all this extra data that we have here. Beyond just the name of the school, we can slide over here. And what do we have here? We have got, look at this, total population, male population, female, population 18 and over. You can get the raw numbers or the percentage. Then you get into some racial demographics here, right? You got white, African American, Native American, Pacific, Pacific Islander, and you can get the raw numbers or the percentages, and you can go over here, and there's so much else. You can look at percent of white only or non-Hispanic, and you can get, look, households, whether they're renter occupied or owner occupied, households with no vehicles. So there's all kinds of cool data that we can work with in this data set that we now have attached using that identity tool to our public schools from the census tracts. All right, let's get back into our model builder and let's add another tool. Let's see what else we can do with this. Okay, here's a nice simple tool that I love, just called select, right? So we're going to use select. And you can see there's a lot of specific select tools, dimension, movement tracks. We're just going to use this first one, and let me hover on it. It extracts features from an input feature class or an input feature layer, typically using a select or SQL expression, and it stores them in an output feature class. All right, let's drag this tool. Oh, wait, let me get it here. Oh, it doesn't want me to drag it. Let me do that again. Nope, not there. Here we go. Why is it not letting me drag it? And here we go. All right, and I'm going to drag it down low here. And again, I'm going to draw a line from our last output data set and use that as our input. Yes, input features. Now let's right click on that tool and open it up. And what are we going to do here? Let's see. Okay, we've got our input feature set right there. Now, right down here, you can select a field. Look at all these attributes. Remember, we had the attribute table? There's all these different things we can look at. And what I'm going to look at here, I'm interested in poverty. That's what we're going to look at here. I want to know which schools are in the poorest areas, in the poorest census tracts, the poorest counties. And the way you can do it, there is a poverty field, but there's this field that I think is really cool. The percentages of households paying 30% or more of their income on rent. So if somebody's paying 30% or more of their income on rent, that leaves 70% or less of their income for all their other needs, all their other bills, their food, transport, everything else. So that's putting them sort of in the poverty level. Now let's look here. This is our SQL expression right in the middle. And you've got to drop down. You could do equal to. I'm going to do greater than or equal to. Is greater than or equal to. And then what am I looking at? In that field, it's the percentages. So we're going to go over and I'm going to go all the way up to, let's get like 70%. Let's see, I'm in the 60s. Let's get on down. Here we go. Okay, this is our lowest one. That's why I did greater than or equal to 70.04, because anything that's less than that will be 69 or less, because those are the numbers we're working with. Okay, now I'm going to hit the OK button. We have it. Oh, no, I'm not. I want to name this. Let's name this so we remember what we're looking at. And what is it that we're looking at? We're looking at, select, we're going to put percent greater than, and we'll say 70 because we kind of rounded there. Percent greater than 70. Okay, now we're going to hit OK. Let's go up here and run that tool. And here we go. And that's finished already. Let's get over here again. We can see this is what we named it, percent greater than 70. It's public school locations. And it's really, it's poverty, right? It's those households that are paying more than 30% of their income on rent. And it's where it's greater than 70% of the total households fit that criteria. And again, so we can click on this. Let's add it to the display. And there it is here. Now the symbology looks the same when we look at this. So let's right click on that and let's go down to our symbology and let's just right here click on the dot. Let's just make it this nice big red dot here so it stands out. There we go. Now we can see of all the public schools in North Carolina, these are the ones that fit the criteria that we just searched for. So isn't that pretty cool? And then, you could turn off this and now we're looking at just those schools and you can see which counties have that. But let's look at just one more tool to add into our model builder. Okay, I think this is a really neat one as well. We're going to search for, oh, wait, I'm sorry, I'm back in symbology. Another way down here, if you look over here, you've got your catalog pane, symbology, and then boom, geoprocessing. We're right back into our geoprocessing tools. So that's another way you can get to it instead of from the top ribbon. And we are going to look for summary statistics. Yeah, here we go. Very simple. Calculate summary statistics for fields in a table. Let's see, I didn't mean to open that. I just want to click on it once. We're going to drag it in. I'm going to drag it down below this. We're going to make a funky looking model here. Yeah, here we go. And again, we're going to draw this line because that's our inputs into the summary statistics. Yep, input table. Okay, now we're going to right click on it. Let's open this up. Let's look at our parameters this time. Yep, the input's there since we drew that line from the green oval into the new tool. And we've got another one of these expressions, right? Well, this one's a little bit different. We're going to look at the field. Let's see, what field do we want to look at for this one? We want to look at, I know, this is interesting to me because we're looking in these poorest counties and neighborhoods, right? Let's go down here and go back into, look, we could look at ones with health insurance or no health insurance. That's pretty interesting, I think. But what we're going to do here, percentages of households were speaking limited English. So what we can do here is we can look at the sum. We can also look at this drop down. You could look at the mean or the median. You got the minimum, the maximum, the range, standard deviation, the straight count. So there's all kinds of things you could look at, but we're going to go for the sum. But we have one more field here, the case fields. So let's do the drop down for the case fields. We want to look at this by county. So I want to see this by county. So we want to add in there. And then the last thing, let's rename it something so we know what it is that we're looking at. So let's take out statistics. Oh, come on. Because we want to remember what it is that we did and what we've been searching for. So public school locations, and I'm going to put limited English by county. And let's hit OK there. And again, we can validate. No errors popped up. That's great. Let's click run. And again, you see the clip tool is running. It's running the whole model. Now it's done with clip. The identity tool's running. That'll take a second. And then it should just go boom, boom for the select and the summary statistics. Those don't take quite as long. So let's see. Identity is going. Almost there. There we go. Select is running. Summary statistics. Now we're done. This is great. So now what I want to show you. So now we're going to, let's see again, we can just open up this oval to make it a little bigger so we can see what we did. Limited English by county. And let's right click on it and add it to our display. Now here, if you notice, let's see, I'll open up the map again. It didn't add in over here. It added down at the bottom because this is a standalone table. So it didn't change our map. Oh, hold on a second. This, for some reason, the symbology didn't hold here. Let me get back over here. I want to make that symbol. Boom, there we go. That's still there. Okay. Now, let's right click on this. We can open up this standalone table. And now look what we've got. It's going by county name, and you can look at the frequency of what did we look at? Ultimately, what we looked at here is we looked at the schools that reside in the poorest areas or counties that also have a significant number of households with limited English speaking capabilities. And you can look at just the frequency, which is the raw numbers. We can sort that descending. And if we do, there's Mecklenburg County is number one right there. And if you look down here, Durham County, so Mecklenburg is where Charlotte is located. That's right about here. And you can see where there's a high concentration of those red dots. It makes sense. And then there's Durham County down at number 12 up here. But you can also look at the percentages because percentages is a way to really normalize those numbers instead of just raw numbers. So let's sort those descending. And look, now Mecklenburg, even though it has the highest frequency, has dropped down to number 3 because Guilford County has a much higher percentage, as does Forsyth. And then Durham County dropped way down. I don't even see it on here now. It's somewhere down there. But yeah, so Durham dropped even further down. So you can just zoom in on the map to see that. And that's basically it. What I think is really cool about ModelBuilder and all these geoprocessing tools is sometimes, let's say you want to revisit this project. Oh, let me get back over here. You want to revisit this, let's say 3 months from now, 6 months from now, and a year from now. You want to remember what you did. And you're like, oh my gosh, how did I create this map? I don't know. Boom, open up your ModelBuilder. You can see the inputs that you used, what tool you used for the next output, and so on down the line. And what's really cool is you can even export this. Look here, we can send this to a Python window. Let's give that a second. And look here, a new Python window is opened up at the bottom. And look at all this Python language that we just wrote. And it gives you sort of a play-by-play in Python. And you can write new code into this Python if you want. And if you just like the way this looks, you can also drop down to export. You can export it to its own Python file. You can also export this graphic. If you just like, this is kind of nice and simple. Your blue ovals, your inputs, the yellow rectangles are your the tools that you ran, and the green ovals are your outputs. So that basically wraps it up, and I hope this has been helpful for everybody, and I hope that this makes you interested in using the ModelBuilder tool. And the last thing I'll add is Yeah, what's really cool, besides, going back to this later, also if you just want to rerun your identity tool, or rerun the select tool or something like that, you could go over here. You've already done clip, you've already done identity. You don't want to have to do them again. You could just open this back up, and now you could look at different parameters, right? Some of those things we look at. You could look at average family size, you can look at labor force, you can look at all this stuff, like we said over here, population with no health insurance, and just rerun the model, and it'll give you similar, the results for that and what you're looking for. Right. Again, hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for listening.